Hello, everybody, and welcome to Functional Medicine with me, Dr. Howard Robbins. We're going to get right to business today. Today, we have a very important and special guest, Dr. Reza Kamarei. Dr. Kamarei is a brilliant nutrition and food science expert with a PhD from MIT in nutritional science and a specialty in probiotics. Hippocrates, the quote unquote father of medicine, was said to that all disease begins in the gut. That's one of his famous quotes. And another quote is, "Food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." And he absolutely, thousands of years ago, was absolutely right. And the gut is probably the most important place in the body because of what's called the gut blank axis. The gut connects to the brain, to the heart, to diabetes, to weight loss, to autism, to skin, to the mouth. So there's an axis, a communication between gut bacteria and the entire body. So with that, probiotics have become, as almost everybody knows, very big and important. First of all, Dr. Kamarei, welcome.
Thank you very much. Nice
Okay. So first of all, people don't understand that what a probiotic is necessarily. So what is a probiotic? What are the characteristics of a real probiotic?
Yeah, in simple terms, probiotics or good bacteria for the colon, for the gut, are the bacteria that when they are active in the colon, they make colon run smoothly with no problem. And that's the reason they are called good bacteria. Of course, there are legal, definitions of that, but we do not want to go through that right now. For the time being, consider them as good bacteria in the colon.
Okay. So from what I've learned is if they don't confer a health benefit, even if you want to call a good bacteria a probiotic, it's not a probiotic.
Yeah, a bacteria that does not offer any good benefits is not a good bacteria. Is an inert bacteria.
Exactly. Okay. Now, in creating Doctor's Biome, and nobody has ever been able to do this from what I understand, you came up with a very special, unique formula of 15 patented strains of what's called living next generation smart probiotics. So first of all, why 15 patented strains?
Uh, the reason is that we went through the literature for years of literature and found all the work that has been done on probiotics and sort of cherry pick the best of the results come from what probiotics. Then we came back and assembled all these 15 probiotics together. Obviously, at that time, we were thinking, do they have any effect on each other or not, positive, negative, and so on. We analyzed the whole situation and all the results for the following several years showed that our selection has been correct. These 15 are doing magic for us.
Now, I understand that some probiotics can overwhelm others and just outgrow everybody else and diminish the benefits that you might get from others. So are you saying that these won't do that, that they work compatibly with one another?
Yes, they do. What we judge is based on the result. The result that we want confirms if the formulation has correct or not. And fortunately, all the results that we have got so far, they're excellent.
Now, I know there are different groups of probiotics. What groups of probiotics did you choose to put into this one?
Two major groups are bifidobacteria and lactic acid bacteria. And in our case, we have 5 of these 15 from bifidobacteria group, and 10 of them are lactic acid bacteria. They work cooperatively and confirm each other and give the results that we want to.
Exactly. Okay. Now, I know you're published in many medical journals and peer-reviewed medical journals. And for those listeners who don't know what that means that other doctors, scientists have looked over the results and the publication and determined that it's scientifically valid and it's not just somebody putting out or publishing anything they wish. Now, you have one recent publication in the Journal of Biochemistry and Physiology showing the difference between a living juice-based probiotic versus a powdered probiotic. What's the difference between, first of all, between living and alive?
Yes, let me answer you after mentioning one point. The editor of that journal, the people who went over our article for the first time, they commented, they sort of congratulate us for the finding. That was very pleasant, heartwarming for us. But anyway, back to what the difference between living and live. The bacteria that are in freeze-dried, for example, in capsule, and you swallow them, they are live. But they are not as good or as efficient as living bacteria that are hydrated, they're alive, they are, active and work. So in all our studies, we have shown that the living bacteria or probiotics in this case are the cells that resist stomach acid and are transferred to small, intestine and then later on to colon. On the other hand, the powders or live bacteria or probiotics, they are not that resistance to stomach acid, therefore not that efficient.
Well, alive, they're always alive at the time when they freeze dry them.
Yes.
But the freeze drying process, it can kill a lot of the bacteria itself. Then when you hydrate it with water in your stomach, the stomach acids can destroy what might come back to life. I understand that. So what you're doing, from what I understand, is hydrating them in a environment, a food with prebiotics, the food they need to eat to grow in number. Could you explain that?
Yeah, let's say that when they freeze probiotics, they put them to sleep, and they're live, but they're not active. When we introduce them in a juice surrounding, juice usually have some sugar, some natural sugar. And when you mix the fruit juice and vegetable juice, of course, the sugar is lower, but they're still there. When you put these probiotics in the juice, then they start to absorb water, and water is the first nutrient they need. And when they have absorb the water, they become living, they become active, physiologically active. So when they enter their stomach, they do not need to absorb water anymore. They're already active. But if you put dry probiotics like what's in the capsule, and when capsules got in the stomach and opens up, and the powder probiotics are exposed to the stomach environment, they are very unhappy with the acidic environment and, for the being hydrated and become active and or living.
Now, I know there's only 4 grams of natural sugar that's in the juice. There's no added sugar of any kind. But there's also fiber from the vegetables that the bacteria like to eat and grow in number on. So while they're in the bottle, are they growing in number as well?
Yes, in bottle, there are some very low amount of sugar from the juice, natural juice, and they can grow. But if you have sugar so that is available in the colon, so-called prebiotics or food for probiotics, they can grow there too. So the most important point for our case is that we have these probiotics in the juice. They are living, they absorb this sugar and are active. And, we enter them to the stomach as a very active bacteria. Active
Okay.
probiotics.
So the next thing is they're called next generation bacteria. What is the difference between next generation and other probiotics that aren't?
I feel I would like to say the system that we came up with is already next generation system. It's already hydrated, living, and if you measure them, they grow fast, and they reach the colon as our later on our even the small clinical studies has shown they are there. So if we consider delivering probiotics in capsule as ordinary or the standard way, ours is already next generation. We have come up with a system that is the better way for delivery in a natural way.
And
These are the fruit juice and the vegetable juices.
and they're capable, these 15 patented strains, proprietary strains, are capable of surviving the stomach acids and bile salts in large amounts, I take it.
Yes, exactly. We have done a lab test to show that, to prove that, and we may come to that point that when we did some small clinical trials, it also showed and proved by the improvement and getting well of the patients using those probiotics.
Now, I know smart probiotics are not bacteria that went to Harvard or MIT, but there is such a definition. What is a smart probiotic actually do, and where do they happen?
Yeah, some people say it's the way they attach to the intestine, the way they interact with the other bacteria. There are different definitions on that, but I think our system is already a smart system, and it could not be better than that, because the results shows that, the result of the clinical trials.
Okay, now I'd like to talk about something that's very important.
Yes.
There is an infection often caused by contamination, but also by the use of antibiotics. That's called Clostridium difficile infection. Over 500,000 Americans, let alone worldwide, it's millions more, get it every year. And 28 to 30,000 people, mostly children and seniors who have weakened immune systems, die from uncontrolled diarrhea from it. You're published in the Journal of Gastroenterology Research showing complete suppression of C. diff in a laboratory in vitro. Could you tell us more about that?
Yes, that was the first study we did in vitro, in the lab, and versus a product, the juice itself, versus the product juice and probiotics that we have, 15. And we showed in the lab undisputedly, unequivocally, that kills the C. diff. And frankly, the result was initially too good to be true. I mean, we were a little bit surprised, pleasantly surprised, and we were waiting for the clinical trials that in fact proved what we did was correct, and the results, we are very happy with.
Now, I heard that one of the peer reviewers wanted to buy into the company when he read about it.
Yes, I recall that. Yes.
Well, that's good. That's in a laboratory.
Yes.
But now you have people. That's called in vivo. That is not a laboratory. That is the real world. An open clinical trial. I know there. First, let's talk about the open clinical trial, and then let's talk about the formal clinical trial that's being done. What happened in this open clinical trial with Dr. Kilcup, and what were the results? Tell us about that.
Yeah. This was a small study. When you want to enter the world of clinical trials, you usually do on a small scale to confirm that you are on the right path. And this was a study using the medical food made from these 15 probiotics in juice. And then there were 8 patients, all with the C. diff, and I think they were using this medical food for 1 month, and 7 of them completely recovered, and the 8th one asked for 1 more month to be on that, and even the eighth one after 1 month recovered from that. So again, another, too good to be true results. We are very excited about that, and I think we have targeted a very important area, and C. diff, and the hazards of this, and coming up with the products that are unique, are patented, and effective to the market.
Now, I know that this can help with all digestive diseases and disorders, and there's a paper published called Beneficial Effects showing a wide range of diseases and disorders, also in the Journal of Gastroenterology Research that you're published in. But let's start with this. What is the difference between a food supplement and a medical food in terms of doctor's biome?
Yes, dietary supplement, medical. Dietary supplements are those products that you bring to market, but you need to ensure their safety and effectiveness. But it's for supplementing, and in a positive way, your health. Sometimes you can say it helps, to prepare the condition for a disease, but you cannot use name of any disease. You cannot say these are for the diagnosis of any disease or treatment of any disease and so on. For this shortcoming, there is another class of product named medical foods. Medical foods must be used under supervision of a physician, but here you can target a specific disease. For example, in this case, you can say medical food by Dr. Biome company is for C. diff infection, and they must be used under the supervision of a physician. So they cannot be mixed up, and usually the companies that come up with medical food are in the higher echelon of science and technology and complication, because they know they are coming up with a very sensitive, valuable product for the customer and consumer, in this case, patients.
So a person who has a digestive disease or disorder, or in this case specifically even C. diff, would take the medical food till they get well, and then they would maintain themselves with a food supplement. Is that correct?
Yes, they can initially use that if they want to. They can use now the dietary supplement version of that, which is milder, and to continue. Otherwise, that should suffice, and it works.
So the medical food has more bacteria, more probiotic in it to start.
At least 2 times more.
Got it.
Yes.
Um,
And one more point.
Please.
In future, even the people who may potentially come up with the capsules and call that medical food, the common sense is a juice is much more closer to food rather than a capsule. People accept juice as a kind of food, which is medical. It's very difficult for me to see that as a capsule, as a food.
And I think it's important to mention that it's delicious. Children love it. It's not like, sometimes a juice will go, oh, it's medicine. No, this is a delicious product that children will love to take, because children can have digestive problems just like adults can.
That is a very important point you mentioned, because in this case, even our excipients, the support of the active ingredients, is juice, and it's delicious, and people can, it has a positive note rather than pill swallowing and fatigue that people get from swallowing pills.
Now, what's interesting is babies, people don't all realize this, are born without biome. And they get their biome, if they have a natural childbirth, from the mother, some of it, and the rest from breast milk. But what if the mother doesn't have a healthy gut? How are they supposed to give the baby healthy bacteria?
Yeah, that's true. That's the reason, in fact, in our pipeline, we are thinking about coming up with the probiotics for babies and kids as well. That is true.
Well, I tell my own patients that they
Yeah.
can give it in smaller doses. They don't need that 2-ounce shot that these bottles come in, 30 bottles to a box. They can take a small amount and give it to a baby with a dropper, and then they can give a larger amount as the child ages and, and grows up.
Yeah, these are initial steps. In fact, it's good for them and good for us to know how it works. But hopefully, in future, we will have a product specifically for babies and kids.
So basically, it'll just have less bacteria in it to begin
Less,
with.
less bacteria and maybe less volume.
But is it safe then for children and babies to take it
The,
even the way it is?
yeah, the 15 probiotics that we have used, I can say we have not even seen one adverse effect of that in human. This is the best you can start with. I mean, it's what else is there if you have not seen any adverse effect, no complaint, and sometimes they complain that the shipment is late, but that's different from the. But overall, I think it is pretty good.
Dr. Dr. Reza Kamarei, I want to thank you very much for being on the air with me today. I think it's very important that people hear about this. Is there any final words or anything else that you'd like to add?
My final word is that Dr. Biome truly is an innovative company, has science and technology and clinical aspects of the product on top of their concern and list. And so far they have behaved very responsibly. And by continuing that way, their future is bright for that company.
Thank you very much. It was wonderful speaking with you today.
Same
Stay
here.
well, stay
Thank
safe,
you.
stay healthy,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.
Bye-bye.